This research project started in 1998, the fall of 1998, and was really based on the desire for a bunch of people that were involved in the Cheviot Mine environmental hearings to collect more data on regional populations of grizzly bears. Throughout the hearing process, there was a recognition that we didn't have much data for bears in this area. That was the impetus behind the beginning of the Grizzly Bear Program. After that time, we initiated our work and began to map grizzly bear habitats and ranges in a small area around Hinton, Alberta, and we tried to figure out ways to understand landscapes and habitat use of bears. As that project expanded and we finished this one small area, our research partners, many of whom were not working in the Hinton area, asked me where our research project was going and where their products were, where their maps of habitat were for the other parts of the province. So after that time, we moved up and down the province collecting data and developing maps and models for all of grizzly bear range in the province. So one of the achievements we've been able to do in the last 14 years is complete the mapping of all grizzly bear range in the province of Alberta, which is a major feat, and the people that I worked with in the remote sensing side said we would never do that, but we in fact took 10 years and it was completed. The overall achievements of our program focus on a couple of different things. First of all, you have to understand that this project is not one individual, it's a group of people. It's people working together, and we've had about 18 different scientists working with us over the last 14 years, many of whom still work with us today, who are around on sort of day one. So it's an interdisciplinary team of research scientists that each has their own role. There's people that work on health. They are animal experts and work in the vet college out of Saskatoon. And we have other people that are remote sensing experts at both University of Calgary, UBC, University of Victoria, that do all our habitat mapping. But all these people rely on data sets from everyone else. So everybody's one of those, we call it a symbiotic relationship, meaning that it's a relationship where everybody sort of feeds off everyone else. The achievements, of course, have been involved not only in terms of mapping all grizzly bear range in the province, but also developing models that are ecologically appropriate for each range. So if you're living down by Pincher Creek, there's a model for that population of bears, and if you're living up by Hinton, there's a separate model for that. So maps and models for all of grizzly bear range in the province. While all this was going on, we also were asked by the provincial government to count bears in Alberta, something that had never been done before. And we spent 5 years counting bears throughout Alberta to come up with the first population estimates for Alberta that are science-based. That information was used to change the status of grizzly bears in the province, along with other data sets, of course. But it formed the basis of the new status of grizzly bears in the province being listed as threatened. One might think that that would have ended our work, saying, well, you've got maps and models, bears are threatened. But we also understood that there were many things going on in grizzly bear habitat that we weren't able to control and didn't understand very much. We worked in parts of the province where there was great bear habitat, but we did not find any bears. So we were trying to understand that, and that's when we started some new work looking at how anthropogenic change, human-caused change in landscape, might affect bear populations as well as their habitat. And while we were doing that, we recognized that there were no techniques out there to establish things about bear health, not very good techniques anyway. So we've got a number of grants through what's called the NSERC CRD program with industry partners to help us look at grizzly bear health. And one of the things we focused on was stress. Stress in bear populations has been, and in many other wildlife populations and in humans, stress has been related to a lot of things related to disease factors and health of individuals and populations. So we developed new techniques to do those things to help us understand the health of bear populations in Alberta. One of the things that, as we're doing all this great research in science, and of course the publications are coming out, one of the things we realized is it wasn't going to be enough just to give these maps, models to our partners, because people had to figure out how to use them and understand their use. So we developed what we call grizzly bear tools. So they're GIS applications that partners use. So the research results fill in into a GIS application, and that allows the user, whether it's industry or government, to evaluate changing landscape landscapes in Alberta, as well as land management decisions, how they might affect grizzly bear habitat over time. So we develop a tool set to allow research to be applied by the end user. And then we, of course, had to come up with a training program. All those things had to link together, and that was far beyond what we had originally envisioned in terms of scope of research. We had to take research and make it into tools that the end user could apply. And our partners, many of them, including the Government of Alberta, is using those tools to evaluate things like detailed forest management plans. They evaluate large-scale sort of oil and gas development activities, and our partners use these all the time with trying to understand how their activities will affect grizzly bears in this province. The program first started out around Hinton, Alberta, and then our partners asked for the same maps and models in other areas of the province. So that's how we expanded from the original sort of what we call our core study around Hinton and around the Cheviot mine area to include all of grizzly bear range in the province. As that work was going on, of course, many people started to take notice of our publications and things that we put out in the academic literature, as well as going to international conferences. And we found that a number of groups were coming to us asking about how we did things and the kind of different tools and techniques we developed over time. And in 2009, we were approached by the Swedish brown bear project in Scandinavia that asked if we would join on an international collaboration. We've worked with them for the past 3 years now, and our work continues working with them. And what you have to understand is that brown bears, or there are grizzly bears, in Sweden in about the 1930s, they had less than about 150 animals left, and today they have 3,500 animals. So it's a very successful example of recovery efforts. And we thought we could learn from their data sets and what they've been able to achieve, and they wanted to learn some things about animal health and habitat mapping that we were viewed as experts in. So a very good collaboration that is ongoing today. Well, certainly some of the challenges that we face now is that we have some of the first baseline data sets on grizzly bears in this province, both in terms of number and distribution and health. We need to understand, as the landscape changes through things like climate change and landscape change through anthropogenic events, forest harvesting, pipelines, oil and gas activities, that we're able to monitor and measure their impacts on bears. And what we want to do is make sure that we can still recognize the habitat needs and environmental needs of bears along with sustainable development. So it's a balancing act, but we've got a good start. I think the future really is where we're headed now, looking at how we're going to use biomarkers of other things about bear health, especially reproduction, and things that we've never done before. So we want to move into an area of non-invasive operations. So we'll probably still need to capture and collar some bears for very specific reasons, but we're going to move into an area now where we're going to be able to use things like hair samples to understand reproductive performance. Again, something that's never been done.